you can actually get approved for a $7,500 Citizens Bank credit card without a hard pull. That means your credit report is not affected and your credit score remains in excellent condition, completely untouched throughout the entire process. And coming up, you'll see why this pre-qualification offer could easily disappear without a warning, the 5 steps that you must follow to avoid getting hit with a hard credit pull, and a hack that you can use to apply for any Citizens product from anywhere in the US, even though they only operate in 14 out of 50 states. Oh, and by the way, I just added a link to this card inside of my free credit card pre-approval master list. I keep it updated monthly, and it has over 70 cards that you can get pre-approved for without a hard credit pull. I'll definitely leave a link to that below so you can check it out. Now, let me let you in on a little secret that I've noticed after watching banks for years, especially when they're rolling out something new. Whenever a bank wants to flood the market with new cardholders, they'll quietly flip a switch. All of a sudden, a soft pull pre-qualification page is going to appear online. There'll be no press release, just a large button that says, check for offers with no hard credit check. It's just like bait every time, and it works. So what happens is you click, you get a limit, and maybe even a 0% interest offer, and then you feel like, wow, they want me. And to be fair, they kind of do, but only for a limited time. And this isn't unique to Citizens Bank. I've seen Chase do this over and over again. You know, one day you visit their site and boom, there's a full pre-approval page and you can check your offers instantly. The next day, it's gone. So poof, it's like it never existed. Banks use these pre-qualification tools as growth switches. They flip them on when they want to hit those internal numbers that they have, and then they flip them off once they've hit their quota. So in this case, Citizens just launched a brand new credit card lineup, and they want cards in hands fast. So they're rolling out the red carpet to anyone that checks, even if you've never banked with them before. You don't need documents, and there's no hard inquiry. But here's the catch. This probably won't last. Give it a month or two, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start requiring, an existing Citizens checking account, or even the pre-qualification disappears altogether. And that's why I'd say timing really matters here, because right now you've got a window where you can kind of look at your offers kind of behind the curtain and see real limits and terms, and potentially walk away with a higher limit card without sacrificing a single point on your credit score. But windows like this, they usually don't stay open for long. Now, I want to talk about what most people get confused about: pre-qualification versus pre-approval, because I see people mix them up all the time. So pre-qualification, which is what Citizens is doing right now, is like a soft maybe. Think of it as a 60% chance that you'll get approved. It's kind of based on this surface level info, your region, your income, maybe some basic credit behavior that you have. It's convenient, but it's not a sure thing. Then there's pre-approval. This is much stronger signal. I would say it's a 90+% confidence level. Banks run more detailed checks behind the scenes, and they're basically saying, we've already looked at your file, and unless something's super weird, you're in. So while pre-qualification is kind of like the weaker cousin, it's still valuable, especially when you combine it with a soft pull, real-time credit limit previews, and the fact that you don't need docs or paperwork, and the fact that this is a window of opportunity that could close at any time. So if you want to run this play, I would say don't wait around thinking that this will still be here, next quarter. Banks don't announce when they're about to pull the plug. They just do it, and if you missed it, then you missed it. But moving on, every few years, a bank decides to wipe the slate clean, out with the old cards and in with a fresh new lineup. And that's exactly what Citizens Bank just did this summer. And it's not just a tweak or a rebrand. This is like a full-blown overhaul of their personal credit card offers. So starting just a few weeks ago, Citizens retired all of their old previous cards and introduced a revamped portfolio of 5 brand new personal cards. First, you got the Citizens Ant MasterCard, and this is like a credit builder card with no deposit, no annual fee, and no minimum credit score required. What makes this stand out is that it includes a built-in upgrade path to, their higher tier cards, and with higher tier limits. And that's likely going to happen after 6 months. Then there's the Citizens Spring World MasterCard. That's a 0% intro APR card made for paying down debt, with 18 billing cycles of interest-free balance transfers. Then they introduced the Citizens Summit World MasterCard that earns 3% cash back on dining and groceries, 1.5% back on everything else, and it has no annual fee. Then there's the Summit Reserve World Elite Card. This is really Citizens' premium travel rewards card, offering perks like TSA PreCheck credit and Priority Pass, and it has a $295 annual fee, and that's waived or reduced for certain banking tiers. And when you go even higher up, then that's the Summit Reserve Private Bank Card. This was the invite-only version of the Reserve Card, and it's only for ultra high net worth clients. Okay, so let's get into some real data points. This is where someone got approved with no hard pull. And I always say the best credit card plays come from, real people in the trenches, from people that are kind of quietly shooting their shot and experimenting and sharing the results with the wider community. And this is coming from one forum member who recently posted about their experience with Citizens Bank new credit card pre-qualification. And let's just say it turned out to be a gold mine of data for anyone looking to steal their work and then copy their success. What happened is they started with the pre-qualification process for one of Citizens' new cards. Now, at first, the site asked them to unfreeze their experiment report to show available offers and credit limits. Pretty standard stuff. But here's where it gets interesting. Once they saw their options, including their limits and APRs, they did something pretty bold. What they did was they refroze their Experian report before clicking apply. And you know what? It actually worked. They were approved for the Citizen Summit World MasterCard with a $7,500 credit limit, and not a single hard inquiry showed up on their report. And that's huge because not only did they walk away with a decent limit card, but they did it without sacrificing a single point off their score. So there's no inquiries, just a soft pull W. So what you can take away from this is that Citizens appears to now be using Experian to display your pre-qualified offers, but may not always hard pull after you accept it if your freeze is timed correctly. And you know what? Historically, Citizens was known to pull from Equifax, so this shift to Experian means they're moving in a different direction now. The strategy of refreezing Experian before hitting accept might be the key move that help avoid that hard inquiry. Now, it's probably not foolproof, but in this case, it paid off. And this person also mentioned something that's easy to miss, but it's worth paying attention to. They were actually offered multiple cards during the pre-qualification, and that included the Summer Reserve card with a $295 annual fee, but they passed on it. And they said, I was pre-approved for the fee card as well, but it wasn't going to be economic for me, so I took the no-fee Summit. This is really a reminder that just because you're offered the premium card doesn't mean it's the best fit for you. Rewards are only valuable if they match your lifestyle. Okay, now let's talk strategy. Here's how to give yourself the best shot at getting approved without that hard inquiry. First, you want to head to the Citizens Bank pre-qualification page. You don't need to log in or already be a customer, just a fresh start. You want to enter your info there. They'll ask for your usual income, housing status, social security number, the basics. If the site says that they can't show you offers unless you unfreeze Experian, go ahead and do that. Just know it's temporary. Then once you can see your credit limit and interest rate offer, that's where you want to stop. So before hitting apply, you want to go back into your Experian account and then refreeze it. If you want to play it extra safe, you want to freeze Equifax too. And then you want to wait at least a few minutes. I would say at least 5 minutes before submitting the full application. This gives the freeze time to kick back in. And listen, if you don't get any offers after this, after you submit the application, I wouldn't get too upset because, it's just a soft pull. Plus, Citizens will automatically generate a denial explanation. So if you're not pre-qualified, you'll instantly receive a formal notice, kind of breaking down the reasons why. So you don't have to wait weeks for a letter in the mail. But I want to let you know what I've been hearing from my email subscribers who follow this process to the letter. They had great credit and Experian unfrozen. Everything was accurate and still got denied. One guy with scores in the 730s, 750s, and 760s across the board was stunned to get rejected with a bankruptcy score of 670, even though he's never filed for bankruptcy in his life. He was kind of left scratching his head because, where did this number even come from? Another person was told their identity couldn't be verified. After I spoke to him, I told him to call Citizens to see if he could push it forward. So he called Citizens directly to try and clear things up, but they couldn't do anything for him. So there was no resolution, no next steps, just kind of like a dead end. So you really want to be aware that Citizens' approval system seems to be a little glitchy. It's definitely not airtight. So even strong applications can get tripped up for reasons that don't always make sense. So just something to keep in mind before you decide to dive in. And as much as I think this is a solid opportunity, it's not the perfect fit for everyone. So before you apply, here are a couple of things that you want to think about first. This is probably not going to be for you if you need 100% guarantee that no hard inquiry will happen ever. If you're in the middle of a mortgage pre-approval or just kind of refuse to take any chances with your credit score, then this might not be the right play for you. Because here's the reality. Even if you freeze your credit reports and follow every step exactly and, even wait 5 minutes before applying, sometimes banks are still going to sneak in that hard inquiry a little bit later. It is rare, but I've seen it happen even days after someone thought, they were safe. So if you're not in the position to risk a single point on your credit report, it's okay to wait this one out. And it's also not for you if you're outside of Citizen Bank's 14-state footprint and don't plan to build a relationship with them. If you live outside their service area like I do in North Carolina, you might be wondering, can I still even get a credit card with them? And the answer is yes, you can. You're eligible to apply for any of Citizen Bank's other personal credit cards, as well as their HELOCs and mortgages. And that's no matter where you live in the US. But if you're thinking about building a deeper relationship with the bank, like opening a checking account, getting access to business products, those doors are usually going to be closed unless you have a local branch nearby. That said, I spoke with a Citizens Bank representative directly, and here's the cool part. If you ever travel to a state where Citizens has branches, you can just walk in and open a checking or savings account in person, even if you live out of state too. So if you're near the state line, heading out on a road trip or just want to play the long game, then that's one way that you could unlock their full banking ecosystem. Once that relationship has been established in person, everything else opens up. And as of right now, Citizens Bank has local branches in the following 14 states. And I'll just leave them up on the screen for a few seconds right here. But you can see they're mostly kind of in the Northeast and, a little bit in the Midwest. And so if you're outside of these areas and plan to just grab a card and go, that works. But if you want more of a long-term benefits, product stacking and more access to the bank, you'll either need to be in one of these states or be willing to make the trip. But I know for a fact that many of you do not live in states that have Citizens Bank branches. If you live in California or Texas, for example, then you're probably 1,000+ miles from one of these branches. But there are still so many more options available to you nationwide where you can apply online too. So definitely click on the next video right here to see close to 80 credit cards that you can get pre-approved for with just a soft credit pull. Thank you for watching.